Kathwari.
And I'm Jenny Geer.
And we're members of Indivisible Westchester. Indivisible Westchester is a group of over 4,000 community members who have come together after the election of Donald Trump to ensure that we have progressive elected officials representing us at all levels of government.
With us today is Legislator Cathrine Parker. Indivisible Westchester recognizes the good work that Legislator Parker has done as our county representative here for the Sound Shore. As an environmentalist and champion of human rights, she has fought hard against the policies of our county executive, Rob Astorino. Cathrine Parker is the Westchester County Legislator representing District 7, which includes Rye, Mamaroneck, Larchmont, and parts of Harrison and New Rochelle. Legislator Parker is chair of the board's Energy and Regional Efficiencies Committee. She also serves on the Budget and Appropriations, Environment and Health and Labor, Parks, Planning, Housing committees. In her most recent term, Legislator Parker has advocated for a fiscally responsible county budget, prohibition on the sale of guns on county property, boosting the wages of Westchester's working families through bills like anti-wage discrimination, a bill to keep all Westchester residents safe through increasing trust between immigrants and our county police force, accountability from county positions like our Energy Director and Human Rights Commissioner, as well as acting as a champion of the environment, having the endorsement of New York League of Conservation Voters and for Women and Families endorsed by Planned Parenthood, Hudson Peconic. Welcome, Legislator Parker.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
So we'll start with our first question. After the devastating shooting in Las Vegas, the conversation about gun shows at the county center has been brought back to light. You have called for a veto, or had called for a veto, to override the county executive's veto of legislation prohibiting this practice. What is the status of that effort?
Sure. I mean, I think all of us, when we woke up on Monday morning, my first feeling was just, horror for the people that suffered. The number of people was astounding, and then after about 20 minutes, I really got angry. We had introduced legislation back in January when we first found out that the county executive had opened the door again to gun shows at the Westchester County Center. There hadn't been a gun show for 17 years, and all of a sudden, 2017, we're going to have a gun show again. And frankly, I felt at that time that we had already seen enough gun violence in other parts of the United States, and we really needed to do everything in our power to stem the tide on gun violence, even if it's gun culture. The county center being used as a place to, again, promote gun culture really seemed to be out of step with what I think most residents would want to see at the county center, more wholesome things. I mean, we have the Westchester Knicks, we have all these other great programs that are going on. So the vote was taken, it was an 8-9 vote, and then, yes, the county executive had vetoed our legislation. At the time, our chairman of the board, Michael Kaplowitz, had said, oh, well, we'll have another vote at some point and override the veto. Well, Monday morning, there was no better time like the present to call for that override vote. So I sent a formal request to the chairman of the board, and I, as you probably saw on Facebook, I really expressed my desire that we get this vote on October 16th, 7 p.m. Because I think voters all over the county need to know where their legislator stands on this issue. And I think most of us feel like enough is enough. We all want to see that our representatives are doing everything in their power to, again, send a message that, we are just not going to have open the door for gun culture here in Westchester. I have nothing against people that have guns and, it's their Second Amendment right. I get that. But this is a business decision. At the end of the day, this is about who we want to accept money from to have use our county center. And I think that there are many other organizations and many other things that we could be doing that would be, again, more in keeping with who we are in Westchester County.
Right, because the argument has been that it brought in a lot of business.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some other ways.
About $28,000, it's something, but is it everything? No. I mean, we could definitely be doing other things. And frankly, I felt that last year's event was a little bit of our county executive sort of getting ready for another gubernatorial race. He ran against Governor Cuomo in 2014,
Right.
and upstate, the gun issue is, it's very different. And so I think that really, again, we have to fight for our values here in Westchester. Westchester is not like upstate New York. And I've been very clear that I think we have to push back now, because otherwise, why open that door?
Right.
And have you had any indication from Chairman Kaplowitz about whether he will schedule that vote
He's
on
not
the
happy
16th?
with me, I'll tell you that much. And I have, I read in the newspaper, he made a comment saying that, Legislator Parker shouldn't be talking to people saying, to call and let them know that they also would like to see a gun vote. She should be talking with her colleagues. Well, the fact of the matter is, I have talked to my colleagues, and all the Democrats on the board are in favor of supporting a ban. And not to say it's just a Democrat-Republican issue, because I think most Republicans actually in Westchester County feel the same way. But for whatever reason, there's a coalition of Republican legislators with Michael Kaplowitz and Virginia Perez on other issues that tend to work together. And I think that Michael Kaplowitz is actually positioned really well to talk to his coalition of other legislators and see if he can find 3 votes. But I think that it's really important for Westchester County residents to really hear how that vote goes after the terrible tragedy on Sunday.
Right.
Well,
And
because we do need to see where our legislators stand on
Yes.
this issue.
we do. And what would you like to see our members of Indivisible Westchester do as in support of your request?
I would love to see members that are here in the Sound Shore, so you know where your legislator stands on this. But if you have friends in other areas of the county where their legislator did not support it, reach out to people. We have, certainly the districts, I'll say them by number, because I think that's probably the easiest way to do that right now, name and number. But Legislator Testa, District 1, Legislator Corcoran, District 2, Legislator Cunzio, District 3, Legislator, let's see, then we get to Legislator Gelfarb, District 6, Legislator Mazzano, District 9, Legislator Marcotte, District 10, and that should give us, I think, 6. So that's the total. And, really, again, I think it's behooves us all to really speak up on this issue, because it's your county center at the end of the day, and it's what you feel makes the most sense for Westchester County. And again, I am fine with hunters. I have hunters in my family. This is not just about that. And also, sadly, at the last show, there was Nazi propaganda. There was, Confederate flags. And again, I just believe that why are we encouraging that? Why are we in any way, helping? Even if it's a transactional arrangement, Westchester County can be about something better. We wouldn't open up the county center to a show that was, selling pornography. And I feel like this is a little out of step with our values here, and so we have to stand up for those. And somebody is welcome to disagree, but I feel very strongly that now is the time we really need to show where we are on that issue.
And we do think you have a lot of support.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that's what we're hearing.
Should
Want
we
to take
go
the next one?
Sure. So much talk has been made about budgeting practices used by the current county executive and how they correlate to the bill taxpayers get each year and our county's long-term fiscal health. What is your take on the fiscal health of Westchester?
Well, it's not good. And I will say, prior to being county legislator, I was a city councilwoman from the city of Rye. And and I'd served for 6 years, I think we had really managed finances. We were very conservative in our budgeting, but we actually used very realistic numbers, and we worked within the budget. And that was a good place to cut my teeth before I came to Westchester County. I was shocked, actually, when I was first elected 4 years ago, to see that the county executive was handing off to the Board of Legislators a budget that was not balanced, and that there were a lot of, for lack of a better word, sort of tricks that most constituents wouldn't really dig down and realize that there was operating going on. I mean, the borrowing for operating, and that the borrowing was getting used to pay for things like pension costs, short-term investment, like when you have technology or buying cars. Oftentimes, you put that in your operating budget because they have a very short life cycle. They were borrowing to pay tax certiorari. So when somebody challenges their taxes and they get a refund, money wasn't just held aside to pay tax certioraries. They would go out and borrow it. And so really it was amounting to a pretty significant number each and every year, unless they did something that was kind of like a one-shot, like selling a building in Yonkers netted us $15 million, which was able to sort of stem that. Right. But it's really been a lot of tricks and not really good fiscal management, which has created kind of a self-imposed financial crisis for Westchester County.
Right, and we have heard that Westchester is in financial distress as a county.
Yes.
That's been in the news.
Right, yeah, the state comptroller just released his report, and we're one of, I think, 13 communities in New York State. And, that really affects us, I think, long-term when it comes to our credit rating with the three.
Which was downgraded, was it
One,
not?
Moody's downgraded us, but there are two others that haven't yet. But I think this report's certainly sending a pretty strong negative message that, we're not in great shape. And it seems, again, that our distress as a community is kind of self-imposed by the current administration.
Well, to me, it sounds a little bit like an individual taking out a line of credit and using that to pay their mortgage and their monthly bills and putting everything on their credit card.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't want to run your household that way. You definitely don't want your government running that way as well. Yeah, it's really unsustainable. And it's been something that, as a legislator, one of our key responsibilities is to appropriate funds, work on the budget. I've been on the budget committee ever since I was first elected and first started in 2014. So I have to say, it seems like this bipartisan coalition that Chairman Kaplowitz belongs to, they have really kind of rubber stamped this practice, because I think it helps them in their narrative with their constituents saying, oh, but I didn't raise your taxes. But it's a false narrative, because again, if we didn't borrow, we'd probably be seeing like a 3% increase year over year.
And what are the implications for our taxes with all of this?
Right, well, the implication is this, that again, you're paying for debt service, and we have to, at some point, really stop and take a hard look at, again, what we're paying for, and really when people need to kind of take a close look at the property bill, because really when you look, it's mostly going to the school districts, about 60%. Then you have another 20% that's going to your local municipality, whether it's town of Mamaroneck, village of Mamaroneck. And then another 20 that's going to Westchester County. So for a $20,000 tax bill, we're really talking about $12,000 going to the school district, and then out of that it would be like $4,000 going to the county, $4,000 going to the local municipality. It's something that I think most people, when they stop and look at all the things that the county government does, they could probably say, that actually we're getting a lot of services. There is an efficiency in that, but most people don't even really realize all the different things that county government does.
Right, and I think that a lot of our members, for sure, either whether they've known about these issues for a long time or they're just learning about them now, really do want to have fiscal responsibility and transparent government in our local government.
Absolutely, and I agree. I think that you deserve that, and I think we need to take a really honest approach to it, and no more gimmicks. You know, recently, even the county executive last year, when he handed us the 2017 budget, he handed with that a deal to privatize Westchester County Airport.
Right.
And that was a 40-year deal, which was, everything was sort of up front on the deal, $15 million this year. And why $15 million this year? Because, well, we had a $15 million budget gap. Then it drops off to $5 million for the next 4 years, and then down to $2 million. So why have this front-loaded deal? There's no other reason that has been demonstrated that says this actually makes any real fiscal sense. And now we've gone down a road where we are, actually having proposals coming in to do this, and I think that there's a lot at stake. Environmentally, there's a lot at stake with traffic and expansion at the airport. And again, the conversation was really started, I think, over how to close a budget gap. So
Right.
it just, that kind of thing, I think, really just is wrong as far as how taxpayer dollars are handled.
Well, moving on to another topic. So Westchester County has seen a rash of hate-fueled incidents, from spray-painted swastikas on the Bronx River Parkway to incidents in our schools. What is Westchester County and the Board of Legislators specifically doing to combat this problem?
Yeah. It's really interesting. Right after Election Day in Westchester, there was all of a sudden a big uptick. I think people felt, who are intolerant to begin with, they felt empowered by what had happened the last election. And so I was hearing reports from constituents right here in District 7 about, anti-Semitic propaganda being left on cars by hammocks. I heard about a woman that I am Facebook friends with who, while she was going through Manor Park, had a derogatory term said to her by some teenagers. And I sent a memo off to the Deputy County Executive and our Human Rights Commissioner, Jim Castroblanco. And I said, I have a feeling that we really need to do more than what the Human Rights Commission has been doing. And I made 3 what I thought were very simple but helpful improvements. One was that as I looked at our website, for the Human Rights Commission itself, I couldn't believe that there just wasn't a short form where somebody could get on and file a complaint to have somebody investigate and follow up. And you had to either call or it was through snail mail. And I said, I think this should be
Right.
very modern.
Updated a little
right.
bit.
So that was one. And my second suggestion was that we have a database, because a lot of these incidents, people tend to want to just brush it off. It's really offensive, it really hurts, and oftentimes people just want to put it behind them, and they, yes, they went on social media, maybe telling their friends, but they didn't pick up the phone and necessarily call the police. And so I felt that we needed to create a database that was really tracking everything that was happening in Westchester. And then the third suggestion was you take that data, which will give us an idea of how big is this problem and what do we need to do. You work with local task forces. Maybe you have, there are 17 legislative districts, maybe you make 17 task forces where people can come together and you have members of the community, whether they're elected officials, clergy, police, you have everybody sort of together looking and trying to figure out what's the best method, and obviously talking to the public and letting them know that Westchester is about tolerance, it's not about intolerance. But those suggestions, every single one of them was ignored. And now we're in a situation where just last night, somebody alerted me to the fact that this a group, white supremacist group called Identity Europa, has now tried to recruit at Westchester Community College.
Really?
So it shows me our Human Rights Commission is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. We've brought them in to talk about the issue, and what they've told us is, well, it's a good thing that New York State has a Human Rights Commission office right here in White Plains, and they have more resources. But our Human Rights Commission, we fund them to $1.3 million. So I really do expect an answer. Why can't you be doing your job? This does not seem that complicated, but very, very important for this time in our history. And we really, again, have to stand up for the residents of Westchester County, and just, again, make sure that we are keeping everybody safe and sending a very strong message of, that does not belong here in Westchester.
And who has jurisdiction over the Human Rights Commission to enact change, to have them expand their mandate, to respond to these kinds of events and not sort of push it off?
Well, it's an appointment that was made by the county executive. And so Mr. Castroblanco is one of our county attorneys. I think, clearly maybe he's just a very busy man, and with our other legal issues at the county, and maybe we need somebody that's really dedicated to this.
Well, and I know some of our members have actually tried to go to the meetings of the Human Rights Commission, and the meetings seem to always be canceled.
Yes.
So that's been frustrating.
Yeah, it's really a shame that I think, unfortunately, Rob Astorino, when he was a legislator years ago, he voted against starting a Human Rights Commission at all. And I think now that he has, at the end of the day, he gets final say. I think maybe we get the final say November 7th, but I really think that this is very important for Westchester. And it's too bad that right now, when we probably need this Human Rights Commission more than ever, nothing is really happening.
And you're really talking about, with all of the issues we're talking about today, about our values and our priorities.
Yes.
And everything stems from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about immigration. We're going to run out of time. So many issues.
Yeah.
But let's talk about immigration. Since January, the actions from Washington, D.C. That have been taken on immigration, here in Westchester, you were part of an effort to pass an Immigrant Protection Act. Can you tell us a little bit about that bill and the efforts at the Board of Legislators to pass it in a bipartisan way and where it stands now?
Yeah, so we worked so hard for many, many months. And again, we started our work right after, President Trump had some executive orders that really sent a real chill out through our communities to our people that are Westchester County residents that live here, work here. They're working to attain citizenship, and they're really frightened by what's happening in Washington. And so all we wanted to do was we worked with the Attorney General's office. We worked with immigration groups and attorneys who were very familiar with immigration law. We worked with the police departments as well to craft legislation that, again, would keep all Westchester County residents safe. And here are the issues that we really identified. One, we wanted to make sure that if somebody's sort of in the tract of attaining citizenship, that they didn't hesitate to call the police if they were either the victim of a crime or were witness to a crime, and that they wouldn't be fearful that their immigration status was going to be brought into the mix. We did not protect people, though, that are criminals. If there is a judicial warrant, we made it very clear that, hey, this person is, if you want to bring ICE in, go right ahead. This is not to protect criminals. And so we did work in a bipartisan way, and we did have some legislators, both sides of the aisle that supported this. We got it passed, and then the county executive vetoed it. He did offer recently his own legislation, his executive order, but here's the real difference. His executive order allows for an officer to bring in immigration if the person is just suspected of being a criminal, no judicial warrant. And we've seen in the news, sometimes people make mistakes. Right. So I think it's weaker. I think it's not enough, and I'm very concerned that people will get caught in this, and we'll end up, again, we'll lose some really good citizens of Westchester.
And the board did hold a vote to override that veto, didn't they?
We did. We held that recently, and we were so close. We had 11.
One
we needed
vote, right?
One vote short, and we needed 12 votes. And it was kind of sad and ironic at the same time that that vote was held on the night of the Hispanic Heritage Month. Each month we celebrate a different ethnic heritage that has sort of Westchester County roots, and I really felt like it was such a slap in the face of those people that were there to be honored, because they all had wonderful immigration stories and had worked so hard and had become U.S. citizens. And really, there needs to be work done at the federal level to make that path easier. And certainly our country is built on having people. And enough, they add to, the workers that are, really creating our economy. Yeah.
Going.
So it's just has so many ramifications.
Right.
Yeah. We just have a couple minutes left.
Right. Well, following up on what you just said, we at Indivisible Westchester certainly hope that after this November's election on November 7th, that there will be a chance to reintroduce an Immigration Protection Act, and also to revisit all of the issues that we've discussed today. And we wanted to thank you, Legislator Parker, for being here, for speaking with us. Indivisible Westchester has endorsed you, and we'd like to say that we think this year, now more than ever, it's crucial that everyone gets out to vote on November 7th. So we'd like to say, to remind everyone to remember to vote.
It is, being an off-year election, I thank you, Indivisible Westchester, for your work in really educating the public to the importance of the local election. It's not just about a presidential election.
Are you seeing a difference in the energy this year?
I do see it. I think it's fantastic, and I hope that more people can see the connection between the issues that we read about in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal to the things that are going on right here at home, and recognize that you have like a real choice to make this November. Our county executive seems to be following in the footsteps of Donald Trump, and on the Immigration Protection Act and gun issues, my opponent and I really do not see eye to eye on that. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having us, and thank you to
having us.
LMC-TV.